Hey babes, welcome to this week's episode of the BJJ Babes podcast. I'm your host Laura. This podcast is all about sharing stories of women in jiu-jitsu from all over the world. And this week's guest is no exception to that. Maria Pineda is a purple belt training out of Black Sheep Jiu Jitsu in El Paso, Texas. Maria also teaches their women's class. I found Maria on Reddit, which is a place I love to lurk. She had posted in the BJJ Women subreddit about strategies for recruiting more women to come to her women's class. So I went ahead and messaged her and asked her if she wanted to come on the podcast. And I'm so glad that she did. She's got a cool story. She is someone that started as a wrestler, got recruited to college for wrestling, and then ended up doing jiu-jitsu as an adult, having to learn how to use both jiu-jitsu and wrestling in a way that would be of best use to her. As more women get into wrestling coming up, as teenagers, we'll see more female wrestlers. I've come across one or two in my training, which is awesome and love to see it. So with that, here is my interview with Maria. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, Maria. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good. And yourself?
I'm fantastic. Getting over a little bit of a cold, so might sound a little stuffed up, but other than that, hanging in there. Maria, do you want to take a moment and introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yes. So my name is Maria Pineda. I'm from El Paso, Texas. I train at Black Sheep BJJ under Carlson Gracie.
Oh, that's awesome. I was just spending New Year's in Arizona with a friend who got his black belt actually in Guam in the Carlson Gracie system, and he's about to move out to El Paso, I think, in the next couple of months.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll have to put you guys in contact.
Yes, yeah, I highly recommend it. The gym has been open for about this is the third year it's been open, so we're fairly new.
Okay.
But definitely, it's been good so far.
Maria, when did you start jiu-jitsu?
So Originally, I started back in 2016. So I had told my friends I did wrestling back in high school. I did it for 4 years. I was actually supposed to go to college for wrestling, but I was young and I was like, no, I want to stay home. Like I'm gonna miss my mom and my sister. So I stayed home, and then I still miss that drive, that like type of combat sport, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I never heard of jujitsu before, and then my friend had told me, hey, let's try this gym out, and I believe it was called Joker BJJ, and the guy who ran it was Justin Gonzalez. He still trains here in El Paso. He has a gym at Grind. So that was my first experience. I saw it, but they were wearing the gis, right? And at first I was like, why are they wearing karate suits? Like, I'm not doing karate, you know?
Yeah.
And I didn't know. Like, it was my first time seeing it. And then he's like, oh, well, just roll. And I'm like, all right. So the mindset I had in going in, I was like just wrestling. You know, I was just wrestling. And I'm like, in wrestling, when you put them on their back, you win by a pin. So I was just like
Mm-hmm.
doing that. I was putting them on their back, but then they would like triangle me or armbar me. I'm like, what is this? Like, oh no. So I got hooked. I was like, okay, I'm gonna come back. So I was there only for about, I want to say like 5 months. The
Mm-hmm.
first 3 months I was training there, I actually competed. And I actually got like first place, but I mostly just did my wrestling. Very minimal. I didn't really know much about like submissions yet. And
Mm-hmm.
then towards my 5th month, I had to stop because I was busy in school. I was finishing my bachelor's degree, and then I was a college kid. I couldn't afford it. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll come back to it.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward in 2019, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back into it. But this time I went to train at Alliance BJJ because they mostly just do the gi. We did a little bit no gi back at Joker BJJ, but I just really wanted to like hit concrete and do the gi. And it was so gritty. It was tough. I loved it. The professor I was under at that time at Alliance, back in 2019, his name is Tatsu Koya. He's like an old school coach from the Karate Kid. Wax on,
Mm-hmm.
wax off. That was him. Like he was so cool. He was a judo black belt and also a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so he knew his stuff. I loved it. Unfortunately, though, my first, I want to say 5, 6 months into it, I had a really bad partial tear in my ACL. I was rolling with someone I shouldn't have rolled with, and back then I would just roll with everyone. And I was rolling with someone like way bigger than me. He just, for some reason, he thought it was a great idea to sprawl on my knee. and it was bad. So I remember hearing a big pop, and I was like, oh, okay, like I can't get up. I can't, like, that's what I remember. And then I went to the hospital the next day because me thinking like, oh, if I go to sleep, it's gonna get better. It's gonna go heal over time. It did not.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the hospital. I went to the ER, and yeah, I had a partial tear in my ACL. So I was out for like 2, 3 months. I couldn't walk for a while, for a month or two, and that's when COVID hit. So I was like, oh man, like I gotta I gotta do something about this. So at home, I just went ahead and me and my younger sister, she's also missing too. We just made our own mats. We did our own, like, for me and my own at home therapy. I got better. That's when the gyms were opening up. Yeah, it was already 2020, and I had told myself like once I get back and I get promoted to blue belt, I'm going to start competing. So I was a white belt for a few years, but technically, like on the mat, I want to say like a year and a half. That's when I got promotion. And then, so once I got back onto the mat, I was training consistently. I did have still like my knees still to this day it will give out, but I just started to put myself in certain positions. Weight training helps a lot. Swimming aerobics helps a lot too. Highly recommend it. Um, I finally got my promotion back in 2020. I got my blue belt, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna sign up for my first tournament, and I decided, well, I'm gonna sign up for IBJJF and Houston Open, and my first tournament, I got second place. So I was like, okay, well, like it's totally different though, totally
Mm-hmm.
different from a wrestling tournament. In my head, I thought like, okay, cool, I can weigh in the morning, and then I'll just like recover, and then I'll have my match, and it's definitely not like that. I learned the hard way. I didn't go in eating anything because I was about, I want to say like so many ounces over. And I went to, they were like, oh no, you have to go compete. Like you checked in, like what? Oh, right. Like, so there I go competing. I'm like all drained. I win my match. I'm like, all right, cool. Now I have time to eat. So I'm all eating my oatmeal. Like, no, you have your other match. Like, you need to go. So I'm like, oh my god. And yeah, like unfortunately, I did lose to a very technical girl, but it's okay. Like, it's like, all right, cool. I'm gonna keep doing this. So I kept competing, and the goal was just I want to get better. I want to get better. And eventually, I decided to try out a different gym. I went to from Alliance. I went to the Black Sheep BJJ. Um, under Carlson Gracie, and I got my promotion at Purple Belt in 2023.
Okay.
And yeah, so I still competed. But this time I started doing ADCC Open. I still do IBJJF, and here we are.
That's such a cool background. I think you're the first woman I've talked to on the podcast that had a wrestling background.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So did you start wrestling in high school?
Yes, I did wrestling. So in high school, well, throughout my childhood, I was always an angry kid. And my coach for wrestling, he saw that. He's like, why don't you try wrestling? I think you'll like it because I don't think you're good at team sports. And I'm like, okay. So I tried it, and it was I just love the aggression. I just love, like, it's a constant, like, you have to go. Like, you have to have your speed, your strength, and you just need to have that like heart for it, and I definitely loved it. I did rank my freshman year, I did okay. And then up to my sophomore year to my senior year, I ranked statewide. I think I was like top 10 of the wrestlers in my for the women in my age group or in my weight class.
That's really fascinating and something I always wonder about with wrestlers who come into jiu-jitsu, how you both use your wrestling while also learning jiu-jitsu and not just relying on the wrestling. Was there a specific method you used, or was it just something that came with time?
For me, it came with time. I was such a like I think back, I'm like, I know why people were annoyed with me because I had that wrestling mentality, always pushing forward, always driving my head forward. And in wrestling, you have to have like that go, that drive. And then in jujitsu, it's more like a chess match. You can be more technical. You can work on your back. You can not you don't have to just be driving forward. You can be on your back. You can do your sweeps. You can get the back. So it definitely took me time, a lot of triangles that I went through, a lot of some submissions that people got me in, and I learned. And it's like, okay, like it definitely took me time.
Yeah, I do feel though, like once wrestlers or people with a wrestling background have that combination, they're so deadly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying like I'm number world champion, number one and all that, but I mean, like I feel like I have pretty good like good tools in my toolbox.
Yeah, yeah, they're definitely good tools. I mean, I think even I never wrestled, and the wrestling side of things I enjoy. I would like to even learn how to do them better. So I think it's, cool people coming in with that. I'm definitely a little
Yeah,
envious.
yeah, yeah.
And something else you brought up when you got injured, you were rolling with someone you shouldn't have, and
Mhm.
um, that's something I think we all will be like, oh, I'll be fine. I have some experience. I'll be okay because I know
Yeah.
how to control them. But sometimes, was it something you knew going into it, like maybe this isn't a good idea?
Yeah, so this guy was a lot bigger than me. I want to say he was like 200 pounds. And at the time, I was like 140, 120. I was around I was for sure I was under 150. I think I was like 130.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a tall person. I'm 5'1". I'm
Yeah.
5'1" on a good day, but really I'm 5 feet. And this man was like close to 6 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, yes, jujitsu is for everyone, and it doesn't matter the size. But even though yes, we were both right there technically, but I mean, he had the upper hand. He was stronger than me. He was bigger than me, and at that time, he didn't know how to roll with the female.
Mm-hmm.
So for sure, it was just a perfect combination of an accident that was
Yeah.
gonna happen.
And I think that's something we, like you said, jujitsu is for everyone. They're supposed to negate size differences. But I think there's a big difference when rolling with a bigger person when it's somebody who has trained for longer, so they know how to control themselves. They know how to hold back so that they're not
Yeah.
someone versus someone who's new and they're not doing it to be malicious. They're not trying to
Right.
hurt you, they just don't know any better.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And at the time, me and him were both training at the same time. So it was just, he was a wipeout as well. So, I mean, like,
Yeah.
it was both of our faults.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know, unfortunately. And
Exactly.
so now you're a purple belt. What did each belt feel like for you in terms of the process of learning?
For wipeout, definitely just, I had to learn how to slow down and work on not so much submissions, but understanding concepts. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is mount. Okay, this is taking the back. This is how to get out of the back. This is guard. This is close guard. This is open guard. This is standing up. Just understanding concepts, right? As a wipeout. Blue belt, you understand the concepts, and now it's like, okay, what can you do with those concepts? You're pretty much connecting the dots.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, if I have mount, what kind of submissions can I do here? Can I hold this position and do a different type of dominant position? Like maybe I'm a north south, maybe I can get to full mount, maybe I can get to side control, maybe I can even take the back from mount, you know? And then submissions, you kind of grasp the submissions, but they're not always going to be there. And something I wish I would have told myself back then is don't kick yourself on the butt just because the submissions are there. They'll come. And now at purple belt, I grasp the concepts, I know the positions, and now I can do submissions. It's like, okay, well, I can do the submission here, and let's say I'm getting the back. Um, I have my hooks in, I have a seatbelt. They're turtling. They somehow manage to get on their knees and they're turtling up. Okay, well, hey, you know what? Maybe they're shaking me off, but there's a choy bar. There's a choy bar there. There's an arm bar there. There's so like the submissions are starting to come to me now. That's definitely my experience.
It's interesting to hear like those different perspectives of each belt because as you were talking about blue belt and you're starting to connect the dots but the submissions aren't quite there. I'm like, yeah, actually that resonates with me. I feel that. It's nice to hear that from somebody that it's always easier to see things in hindsight. So it's nice to hear
Hmm.
that perspective sometimes from somebody who's been there and can put those words together and articulate what I'm feeling, but I haven't quite been able to conceptualize yet.
Yeah, and you'll start, maybe you'll find, and I think at Blue Bot too, you also start finding what positions do you like. Do you
Mm-hmm.
like being on your back more, working on your back? Do you like being on top positions? What's your goal? What's your style? And then at Purple Bot, you start to implement that more and perfect it more. You clean it up more. That's definitely like how I'm seeing things now.
What do you think? What would you say your style is?
I'm a wrestler at heart still. I love to push forward. I love to be on. I have a big top game for sure. Um, Definitely like to hit. I love to do arm bars, Choi bars. Sometimes there's Kimuras. Those are my three top submissions. But right now, of course, you want to work on all positions. I'm working on bottom, but that's something that I like on. That I want to work my game on is bottom positions. Because there's so many things there.
I have a similar style to you. I think by nature, I'm more of a pressure passer than a guard player, but if somebody gets me on my back, my guard gets
Yeah,
pretty quickly.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And you know what? The ecological approach that we do at my gym, because we switch it from like one week we do top game and then the next week we'll do bottom game. They have games where you're having to learn to make connections at bottom, and for me, it helps me so much. I'm able to grasp things better when it comes from playing bottom, for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, so your gym does the ecological approach. Could you explain what that is and how that works at your gym?
Yeah, so we just started doing it. I want to, the first year we were doing it like how everyone else does it. I want to, so 2 years ago. Basically, we don't do warm ups. We don't teach a move, and then okay, everyone do the same move. Like basically, it's like we have games, and your goal is to try to get to winning that game, which is a certain position that you're in. So let's say, okay, guys, your goal is to one person is bottom, the other person is standing. Your goal is to pass their legs. Just pass their legs. You figure out how you can pass the legs. So it's like a situational drilling, I guess, in a sense. Um, and you kind of have to figure out what works for you because yes, maybe if showing a move, like if you show a technique of the day, like yeah, that's cool, it works for you, but I'm 5'1", I have little arms, I have thick legs, like that's not going to work on me, or that's not going to work for me. So that's what the ecological approach does. It kind of opens up, like instead of like narrowing it, it opens up. Okay, figure it out. Another way I like to describe it, um is picture you're taking an exam, taking a test, and your test you have multiple choice, right? A, B, C, and D. Well, instead of the test being multiple choice, this time it's an open-ended question. You have to answer the question, but it's up to you how you're going to answer it. And I feel like that's how ecological approach is.
And that brings me to you are an instructor in addition to being a student. So
Yeah.
tell me how that came about.
So, I'm one of the so we have a few girls that train at Black Sheep, but I'm one of the girls who has been consistent, and I also compete a lot. And I noticed that there would be girls that would go and they would kind of stop going, and I would ask them like, "What happened? Like, is everything okay?" And they would tell me like it's intimidating. Like I'm these, and I love all my teammates. Like they're awesome, but I get it. Like they're men, they're intimidating. Like I'm afraid of getting hurt. So I had brought it up to my coaches like, hey, like I think it'd be cool. Maybe I can offer something to these women. I feel like as a higher belt, you should offer your knowledge to other women. You know what? Or to other people. Like, why are you gonna keep it to yourself? So they're like, yeah, cool. Well, let's see what we can do. And then the opportunity came up for me to do a self defense class to promote for my sister's wrestling program. I had a lot of women come in for self defense, and they wanted to continue doing jiu-jitsu, and I was like, all right, cool. So we picked a date. We originally picked Sunday um, for me to teach a class, but now it's moved to Saturdays, and it's been pretty good so far.
So when did you start teaching the women's class?
I want to say in September we started teaching it
Okay.
last year.
Okay,
Yeah.
September of 24?
Yes. So it's been a few months now.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. And is it something, do you direct the curriculum yourself, or is it, do the other professors at your school kind of guide the curriculum?
No, so I do the curriculum myself, but I do like I'll ask my professors, hey, what are you guys working on? Okay, this week we're working on top game, chest to chest connection. All right, cool. So I'll come up with my own games and go from there. I have a lesson plan and everything, and I'm like, okay, I make it like I'm teaching the class. You know what I mean? So it's been pretty good.
How many women do you have in your class?
So today was only one, but that's okay because today we have the women's open mat that we have here in El Paso. We have every once a month we have women's open mats all over El Paso. That a woman is just for women. Welcome to go no matter what gym. But usually we have a solid 4 or 5 that have been consistently coming.
That's awesome. And
you.
I've been in those classes during a holiday season or something where there's only one or two people who show up, and it's, as the student, it's somewhat intimidating because you feel like the professor's
Mm-hmm.
attention is on you, but at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
it's a private lesson, so you get to kind
Yeah.
of work things with somebody just working with you. So there's like the plus and
Yeah.
minus of that.
I get that. Do you feel like your professor's like judging you when you're in the class, when it's like you and the professor?
I, not that they actually are, but probably my insecurities make me feel that way.
Okay, I get that. I get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because today I had a one lady, she came in and I was like, okay, today's your private lesson. What would you like to learn? And she's like, okay, I want to work on my stand up. Basically, it's just her stand up. So I was like, okay, we're going to work on hand fights. And then let's work on leg drags. Let's work on, single legs, double legs, all that good stuff. And she loved it.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's the fun part of it, getting to kind of work with somebody with what they're working on a particular day.
yeah.
You talked earlier about with ecological approach, obviously you're a shorter person, shorter legs, shorter arms, and we all have different body types, and we all kind of adapt our games to what works best for our body type. How does that influence how you teach others in a class with different body types?
So when I'm doing the ecological approach with the women, I
Mm-hmm.
like to watch what they're doing and then so let's say hand fights or no, let's say they're having to work on grasping the head, grabbing the wrist, and having control. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe you have one female, she's tall, and then the other one's short. How do you work with that? So I'll look and see, okay, like I'm seeing they're not making the connection, they're not grasping the head correctly. Maybe it's a grip. Maybe you need to go not by the wrist, this time the elbow. So I like to watch, and then from there I'll like implement, and I won't say, hey you, like I'll tell the whole class, all right guys, like um if you feel like you're not grasping the wrist correctly, why don't you try a different grip? Maybe instead by the wrist, grab the elbow, or hey, by the shoulder. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't say how to grab it specifically. I just said you have to have control. So I try to go that route. And I think that's one of the great things about ecological approach. You see the missing concepts that people are having and you're able to like redirect them. So that's
Mm-hmm.
basically what I do in the class. I try to show them things that may not work for this person, but it might work for you, and you have to play around with it. You can't just assume like one trick works for everyone. Like it's not a one trick all. It's not always the case. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really fascinating. I like what you said there about the concept is control.
Mm-hmm.
What is the concept? What is the goal? And then how do you adjust your approach to reach that goal?
Yes.
It's so right. Like just because, grabbing the gi, like getting the grip in one way or getting a hook in a certain location works for the person teaching the concept doesn't mean it works for everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that idea of kind of what's the concept, what's the goal, and how do we get there versus having to make it this A, B, C, like rigid formula.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a goal there at Black Sheep is just, do you understand the concept? So we do have some white belts that they started at the ecological approach in the very beginning, and seeing them in the tournaments. Recently we had a tournament, and it's crazy. It's like, wow, these don't look like white belts, like, and they grasp things, and we also don't say moves. We're just, okay, your goal is to get chest to chest connection. We don't tell them it's side control. We don't tell them it's like a knee pass, but they're still able to grasp those concepts, and they're able to implement those moves without knowing the name of the move. So it's pretty cool. I love the ecological approach. I know it's not for everyone, but I've seen some major improvements in myself, and as well as like my other teammates or my students.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we all learn differently. There's different learning style. You have to find the learning style that works for you and the school that has the learning style that works for you. So when did your school move over to the ecological approach?
So when it first opened, I believe it was back in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
No, 2022. This is the third year, so 3 years ago. Well, they were teaching how everyone was teaching, with teaching a technique and doing a move, warm ups, all that good stuff. And then it was around ADCC, and my professor, although he saw what's a gym called? I forget the gym. One of the athletes who does this gym is famous for doing the ecological approach, and he specifically was watching this one athlete, and there was an ADCC Open that he had seen him in the Dallas Open, and he was like, you know what? I think this is going to be better for us because it's the technique, teaching a technique and move. Like, yeah, it's cool, but like they're not grasping what I want them to grasp. And he started implementing it, and it took off. It
Yeah.
helped out a lot of us.
You mentioned earlier too, when you part of why you moved over to Alliance, which is where you were before you moved to Carlston Gracie, was the emphasis on the gi. So do you have a preference, gi versus no gi, at this point in your jiu-jitsu career?
I do. You know what? I used to love the gi, and I think that helped me from wrestling to jujitsu was the gi, because the gi you have to slow down. It's more technical. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't bulldoze, So I always appreciate the gi. But now, as I'm getting older and my fingers are like, I feel it in my fingers, and the recovery is harder, I do love the no gi more. And it's more like I can still implement my wrestling, but now I have like the experience, and the technique to implement my jiu-jitsu as well. And I think it just goes hand in hand for me now. So
Yeah.
no gi for me.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty interesting what you mentioned about the gi kind of forced you to work on the concepts rather than bulldog with your wrestling. And so maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
a good strategy for wrestlers because they can learn the
Yeah.
jujitsu with, and then blend it with their wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Because
interesting.
you're forced to like, because for wrestling set, my perspective, you tend to you you're spazzy. You're a spazzy person when you're in doing jujitsu. At least from a jujitsu perspective, like when you're going with someone that's a wrestler, like, hey bro, like chill out. But it's just in wrestling, that's just how you're driven. And in the gi, I mean, you've experienced it. Like you're stuck. You're like, okay, and you have to learn to like, okay, calm down and think. And definitely like it. I feel like anyone who's done wrestling and transitioning to jiu-jitsu, do the gi. It's gonna suck, trust me, but you know, you'll find through struggle, you'll find salvation through that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So when did you transition to preferring no gi over gi?
At Black Sheep, so originally we do 1 day gi, 1 day no gi, 1 day gi, and
Mm-hmm.
then when we started doing the ecological approach, um, the professors decided, you know what, let's just stick to mostly doing no gi. So Tuesday and Thursday, which is just 2 days out of the week, we do gi, but the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the week we do no gi, and it's just a preference there at the gym, and we have a lot more people coming in too
Mm-hmm.
that do no gi rather than the gi.
Yeah. I mean, I love the gi, but I do think it can also be an obstacle for some people in starting jujitsu because they're like, I have to
Mhm.
buy this thing that,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah, and my gym is mostly, I think we only have one no gi class. All of our other classes are gi, and because we're at a UFC gym, we're in like that system. They don't have loaner gis, so they'll just send people to their first class, which is a gi class without a gi, and it creates this really awkward situation for
Yeah.
the instructors and the other students. And I did one class that was a gi class without a gi, and then I bought a cheap gi off Amazon.
Mm.
But it probably prevents some people from coming back because they feel uncomfortable and they don't want to spend the
Yeah.
money.
And on top of like the membership that you're paying for the gym, like let's be honest, like paying for a gym membership at a jiu-jitsu gym, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
And I get it because it's a livelihood of other people.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And then on top of that, like having to pay for a gi, and you have to buy another gi because you don't want to be that smelly gi person, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a lot of it. It's an expensive hobby, so it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely having the no-gi classes is a great way to maybe eliminate that barrier to entry. Is your women's class gi or no-gi, or do you alternate?
I used to alternate, but I noticed too that more women would rather do the no gi than the
Mm-hmm.
gi. So I was like, okay, well, we're just gonna do no gi. Like, there is a mom and a daughter who do come, and they do want to do gi. So I tell them, okay, like, if whenever you ladies are coming in, maybe we can just do gi. And I have extra gi, so I'll bring it for the other girls. Like, it's no problem for me. And we have
Yeah.
learning gis too, so. But that hasn't happened yet, but we'll see.
How do you advertise women into your classes?
That's something I'm learning because I don't want to be that annoying person. Like, you need to come to jiu-jitsu. Why aren't you coming? Like people have lives, and I totally get it. So I do try to promote it through social media. Like I let like, it's a new year, like try something new, try jujitsu, for women only, like you go in self-defense. That's the only thing I've done so far. I do kind of want to go to like local communities, and offer it, like put flyers for women, mostly for college. I feel like they would, I think it'd be really good for them. I haven't done that yet though, but that's pretty much all I've done so far. That's something I need to learn though, is promoting the gym, promoting the women's class for sure.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, I think also as women, we have a hard time promoting ourselves. And in like, I struggle
Yes.
with that with the podcast. So I think it's similar with, promoting the class, promoting the podcast, we're promoting ourselves. And we're like kind of almost trained not to do that as women growing up.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Like, how dare you promote yourself? Like, are you cocky? Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
get you. I'm the same way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because at some point in our life, we've gone into something with confidence and been, yeah, told we're arrogant or somehow been told we have an
Hmm.
attitude. And then we just learn to hide that part of ourselves.
Yes, yeah. Like, I remember when I was starting the class, it was already a month in, and then my coach was like, "Hey, well, like we need to start paying you." So I'm like, "Why are you gonna pay me for what? Like, I'm doing this because I like to." He's like, "No, you're taking your time in, like you're putting in the work, like let
Mm-hmm.
us pay you." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like, and then you're right. And I was like, "Why? Like, I don't. Why would you need to pay me?" But it's they should.
They should.
It's a service that you're providing.
Yeah. You are, you have skill, you have a skill set, and you are bringing something into the gym. And that's such a green
Mhm.
flag that, because even some really high level gyms, like, don't want to pay their instructors or think that, like, oh, it's like an honor to teach here or whatever. So I think it's a
Yeah,
flag when gyms want to pay people their value.
yeah, exactly. And I love Black Sheep. They know that my coaches are awesome. They're very like the reason why they opened up their own gym was just to avoid any toxicity, avoid drama, and it's such a chill vibe. Still intensity is there, but it's very like you can get comfortable in that gym and they accept you no matter what.
Yeah. Gym culture is so important, and I think, gyms
Yes.
have different cultures and some gyms are more rigid than others, which, I think some
Hmm.
people want and are looking for, but I like that more chill vibe personally.
Yeah, yeah, because they get it. Like everyone has jobs, they have a life. Like this is a hobby. This should be like, yes, put investment into it, but it's not that serious. Like, this should be enjoyable for you, not a
Hmm.
constant like having to go and like, you know, um putting you down. That shouldn't be a thing in the gym.
So you mentioned also that there's women's open mats. Is it through El
Yes.
Paso, kind of rotating gyms?
So it's just started. It's already a year. So one
Mhm.
of my she trains out in a different gym, and I've met her. Her name is Keeleen. I love her. She had asked if I wanted to do, or if I would be down to do an open mat. Basically, having women from different gyms coming to one gym to train. Like it's
Yeah,
no bad blood, just it's just women only. So we do it around El Paso and New Mexico. The furthest we've gone to is Santa Fe, and then so we'll do Las Cruces, which is right outside of El Paso, Texas, and it's just mostly El Paso, Texas. We're still growing. It's officially a year. So like for example, this month we had it in Osolote, and it's just women who are training, and the next month will be at my gym, and again like it's just all women are welcome. No charge. It's just for if you want to roll, if you just want to watch, even like you don't have to have experience. It's for everyone. You have to
yeah,
be a girl. That's the only thing.
yeah. I love that. I think that's such a great way to bring women in jujitsu together. Like in San Diego, we have women's classes and we have like women's seminars and events. We don't have an ongoing women's only open mat. And is it once a month? Is it every week? What's the frequency?
It's once a month. So usually, like what Kayleen does is she'll promote it like, hey, we're having a women's open mat. Any gyms that would like to partake in this, let me know. And then she'll come up with the schedule. She'll
Hmm.
ask the gym owners or whoever is running the gym what's a good day for her to go in, whether it be Saturday, Sunday, or Friday. It's usually on a weekend too. The time. So it is once a month and it's always at a different gym. So one month will be in El Paso, or maybe the following 2 months will be in Las Cruces. She tries to collaborate with everyone and make it available and a good time for everyone.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how is there a social media handle that falls under this or a particular like
Yes, it's under. I think it's just Belladonna.
okay.
I'll share you the links.
Yeah.
Belladonna. Healing also makes shirts. They're really cool. I don't have one of the shirts, or I use them, but they're really cool. I think what she had mentioned to me, she wants to make like a in-house tournament, and it's just so women can compete. But it's no bad blood. It's just if you want to compete, cool, and just to get that adrenaline going, that experience, because that's another thing that we noticed that I noticed that she notices that we do have a good amount of women in El Paso that do train. Unfortunately, in tournaments, there's not a lot of girls, and it's
Yeah.
just one step at a time.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm signed up to compete a month from now in an IBJJF tournament, and
Cool.
there is
Best
no,
of luck.
yeah, thanks. Right now, there's no one I'm Masters 2 blue belt middleweight,
Oh,
and there's
okay.
someone signed up in Masters 3 blue belt middleweight, and I'm like, I really hope she comes down to my weight division because it's like, it would be great. Like, at the end of the day, we just want to get experience, what you said earlier. We want to get
Exactly.
better.
Yeah. I feel like too competition because I've done a good handful. I feel
Yeah.
like with competition it's helped me get better and see my game like, okay, yeah, like you can do it in practice, but can you be put in like a scenario in real life situation, can you actually do it? And for me it's helped me so much in my game, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. It forces progress. Like, I don't even
Yeah.
fully see it, but I see the progress afterwards.
Yeah.
So
Same.
how often do you compete?
How often? So back when I was a blue belt, so back in 2020, I would compete. I think the total amount of tournaments I did was about 6 or 7, a
Mhm.
lot. And then I last year I actually I only did 3 tournaments,
Mhm.
which is like I don't that's like the lowest amount I've ever done. So I've done IBJJF, I've done ADCC Opens, I've done the Nagas, I've done the AGFs. I usually try to do tournaments where I live around, so either in Texas, Arizona, New
Mhm.
Mexico. The furthest I've gone is in Las Vegas. Um, yeah, I just try to do as much as my finances allow me to, my
Yeah.
job allows me to. Because this is for me, I would love to be a full-time athlete, but unfortunately it doesn't work like that. I have bills to pay. So
Mhm.
I do as much as I can.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I think that's, a lot of us are out there where we love jujitsu and we love to compete, but yeah, it's not our full-time job. And
Yeah.
so you've got to find that balance of,
Yes.
you know, those registrations are not cheap, and yeah, having the time to train up for them while managing a full-time job. Do you have a favorite um, tournaments, like in terms of IBJJF versus ADCC Opens versus Naga?
I used to be a big IBJJF fan, but then I had tried an ADCC Open, and it reminds you a lot of a wrestling tournament. So
Okay.
I love it. Like, and then the weigh-ins too. Like, if you're trying to cut weight, which I don't recommend now that I'm older, but if you're trying to cut weight, you can weigh in the day before. You don't have to weigh in 15 minutes before your match. Unfortunately, like with IBJJF, I don't know if you had this experience, but like, they tell you, okay, your match starts at 2, and then they move it, at 12, and you're like, oh my God, like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
ADCC, they're not like that. Also, with ADCC Open, you're guaranteed 2 matches.
Oh,
So
that.
if you lose the first one, hey, you can still go for third. You're not done. And with IBJJF, unfortunately, either you win or you don't. Either you win or you don't, and you get a free T-shirt. You know what I mean? Like, it's so yeah. For me, ADCC, I love it. It's really great, but it is like it can be intense for sure. I do like AGF as well. AGF has good, like, it's not as expensive as IBJJF. It's a good like start off before doing IBJJF, I think.
Yeah. I don't know if we have those, or if I just haven't seen them in the area I'm in. I would say like, we have Jiu-Jitsu World League comes here semi-frequently.
Oh, okay, cool.
And they're a little less expensive than IBJJF, and like ADCC, you get guaranteed 2 matches, so it's a good,
Mm-hmm.
and they have gi and no gi, so it's a good like warm up to IBJJF, because you're right, like that third, like weighing in like 30 minutes before you fight, it's tough. I mean, you have to be on weight. Or
Yeah, you have to.
yeah, or you can cut and then it's
Yeah, it's not fun when you're doing that because I've
yeah,
done it too many times and I learned the hard way. I'm like, okay, I need to stop doing this. I need to either move up in weight or, hold off and
yeah.
get to the weight class I need to get to.
Yeah, the closest I've done, and it was my last tournament, but it was World League, and they don't do day before weigh-ins, but you can weigh in at any time once the scales open. So I did like a water cut, but it was just for a couple of pounds. I was like, it was just like, I think, 2 days before I was 2 pounds off. So
Hmm.
I just basically dehydrated myself and then rehydrated myself. But yeah, I would never want to do just that experience. I would never want to do like an extreme weight
Hmm.
cut.
And it's crazy. It's only 2 pounds. You think like it's fine, but no, it you feel it. I've done it too, and oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
it sucks.
Yeah. What is the most extreme weight cut you've done?
Unfortunately, I've done the water cut too,
Mm-hmm.
which was like I want to say like 2 pounds. The extreme one I've done is 5 pounds the week of. I would do crazy cardio. I would do the sauna, but I would like bundle up in my sweatshirts. So also another bad thing I guess from wrestling is you do crazy weight cuts. There were so many times doing wrestling tournaments, I would see girls pass out. I would see girls cut their hair, and that's just the culture. It's
Yeah.
and people like it's crazy. And as I got older, I still continued doing that. So for me, the craziest weight cut I did was the 5 pounds. I would bundle up, do extra cardio, not eat. Sometimes I wasn't eating as much as I should have. And then closer to the day of, there I was spitting in a cup. I had my sauna suit. I was just like running. I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't eaten anything, and yeah, cool. And then the day before, or the night before, I did what do you call? It's like a bath salt. It's a
Oh,
bath that you do. I'm not sure
yeah.
what it's called.
False.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I did that,
Yeah.
and oh my God, like I felt my heart coming out of my chest. I was like, oh my God, am I gonna die? Like this is crazy. But there I am still doing it. And then I cut the weight. I made weight, and then um I was performing really well. I got a takedown. I was able to get like on top. I was going for a submission, and then all of a sudden it just hit me. Like
Mm.
I gassed out. I wanted to pass out right then and there in my match. So that was Nogi Pans. I think it was 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And no, that was such horrible. And I remember my boyfriend at the time, he's not my fiance, he had told me, he's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Like, I don't know. I'm trying to win. I want to make weight. And
Yeah.
yeah, that wasn't fun.
Yeah.
Definitely a learning experience.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good like cautionary tale to anybody. Like, 1 or 2 pounds, that's usually just water weight anyway, but you
Hmm.
know, it's go up a weight class.
Yeah, for sure. And then it's like, I think back and it's like, you know what? Like, why did I do that? Like, I'm not winning anything. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
a gold medal, cool, but it's not like that's not my livelihood, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. We're paying to be there. We're not the sponsor
I'm
athlete.
paying for my free t-shirt. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're paying for the experience and to get better at the end of the day.
Hmm.
It is hard. I think, when you're a competitive person, it's hard to, pull back on that.
For sure. Yeah. I've learned the hard way
Mhm.
and I'm better at it now, but it's first during that time I had to learn the hard way. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I gotta
Uh,
stop doing this to myself.
yeah. Do you have a pre-competition routine that you like to follow? Like, are you music, no music?
I used to do music, but
Mhm.
then I felt like when I would listen to music and then getting on the mat, like noise would shock me because there's a lot of things going on. There's people yelling, there's the sounds going on, it's just different things. So I stopped listening to music. Um, and I just take in everything. Like I'm hearing it, all the sounds. I look at the mat that where I'm gonna go on. I make sure I stretch. I'm just picturing myself, and I'm a very religious person now, so I pray. I thank God for allowing me to give me health and for me to move my body and for me being there because it's a privilege. Like there's so many other people that can't walk, or they're struggling to breathe or they just they're it's a privilege to be competing. It's a privilege to be able to use your body for fun like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I say a little prayer for myself and for also my opponent. And yeah, I try not to go crazy like jumping around, or I used to do that. I used to be like this and like, and now I don't. I just lay back. I'm just like, okay, we're gonna do this. I'm about to get in a match and we're gonna see who's a better person, and then that's it.
Yeah.
That's my routine.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't know. I'm back and forth. I'm still finding mine. I do need to get my adrenaline dump out. So like I'm the person who needs to
Mhm.
almost do like a round before I get out there. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. It's really cool to hear everybody's different pre-match routines.
And do
So
what helps you, for sure. Do what helps you. Do what helps you get ready and prepared. You'll find it. For sure, you'll
yeah,
find it.
yeah. So going back to training and your women's class, what do you think are some good strategies in terms of keeping women in training and keeping them in jujitsu?
I think empowering them that they can do it. You know, it may look tough, and you may like it's getting comfortable being uncomfortable in the positions that you're in. You
Mm-hmm.
know, for example, like if someone is mounting you, you know, that can also be a triggering thing for women, but you know, to show them, hey, you can get out of that. You
Mm-hmm.
can get out of that. You don't have to be super strong. You don't have to be a guy. You can have the good technique, you know, and I think just showing them that and showing them you can do these moves, you can do hard things, I think definitely keeps the women in. And then, you know, I try to show them that, you know, hey guys, like, look, this is what I try to show them my matches as well, or I try to put that, be a good role model for them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I can do it. You could definitely do it. You know, the sky is the limit for y'all. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's just what I try to do to keep the women in and be open and welcoming. You know, you don't have to be like, you need to come to jiu-jitsu. Like, no, like, you know, be listening to them, acknowledging them and letting them know like, hey, like you matter, and then it would benefit you, it would benefit those around you. And that's what the culture or the strategies I try to bring is to welcome everyone, whether you're beginning, whether you're from a different gym, everyone's welcomed. It's for you.
Yeah, I think that is incredibly important. When you're in your gym's co-ed class, you know, as the student rather than the teacher, and you see a new woman come in, what do you do to maybe make her feel welcome, help her want to come back again?
Well, I definitely introduce myself. I'll tell them like, hey, let's roll, and I'll roll with them. And then, you know, I tell them like, oh, what got you into jiu-jitsu? It's so cool having you here. Like, if I try to make them feel as welcome as possible, and I let them know if you have any questions, let me know. I tell them if they have everything that they need from like if they're doing gi, if they're doing no gi, whatever they need, like I let them know like, hey, I'm here for you. You know, and I definitely do exchange social medias with them. And, you know, that's one thing I try to do is I even if it's a in the co-ed class, I make them feel welcome, let them know like, hey, I see you. That's awesome that you're here. Please come back.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like we're all benefited when the new women keep coming back.
Yeah.
Something I found too was when I started, I that moment where you're supposed to pair up and partner. And some gyms, you know, the instructors tell people who to partner with, and sometimes my coaches do that. Sometimes they don't. But when I first started, it was definitely that who do I feel comfortable asking to train with, feel comfortable asking to pair with, and then who do I feel safe with was another part of it.
Hmm.
So something when my friend started at my gym, I would like tell her, like not tell her who to roll with, but almost like be like, hey, will you go pair with her? Because I remember how uncomfortable that felt. So I think
Yeah.
that also is helpful. I don't know if you've had a similar experience.
Like telling them who to roll with. I honestly like my teammates there at PJJ, like
Mm-hmm.
everyone's really cool to row with. But if it's someone like brand new spazzy wipeout, like yeah, I definitely do. Like I have had told to the girls that consistently go in the co-ed class, like, hey, like if you have to row with him, ask the coach if you can row with someone else or row with me again. You
Yeah,
know, that's
yeah,
usually what sometimes I do have to like interject and be like, hey, well, he's new or he's spazzy, he doesn't know how to handle a woman. We'll roll again. It's fine. You know,
yeah. It's definitely something that's a challenge. What do you love most about jujitsu?
I love the workout. For me, it's definitely like I'm feeding that like drive I used to have. I don't want to say ego. I'm feeding like that close contact sport that I used to do in wrestling, where
Mm-hmm.
it's like you have to go and you're pushing yourself. Like you know you're learning all these things, but can you actually implement it? I love the culture too. It's people, everyone has stories. And to me, I think it's so awesome seeing people that are struggling with this or struggling with maybe their mental state, their physical state, their emotional state, and yet they're still there. And it's like, that's cool. It's
Yeah.
just, everyone has a story, and you're learning to be comfortable in an uncomfortable position. That's what I love about jiu-jitsu. And it's something you can take away from the mat to life. That's for sure for me, like what I love about
Oh, I totally agree. What challenges you the most about jujitsu?
it. The expenses, like, or just my body. I mean, I'm getting older, so I just turned 30. I turned 30 in June last year. So it's like when I was younger, it was like I can do 2, 3 classes and it's fine. And now as I'm getting older, it's like, oh, okay, I have to slow down. I can't bulldoze. I have to be technological and thinking, and you think you know it all, and then you get in a position like bottom or trying to do like going from X card or going to the events, and you're like, oh, I don't know this at all. Like, let me work the kinks out. It's definitely something I don't like about jujitsu, but it has to be done.
Yeah, I'm 38, and so I have to, especially when going with like the 23-year-old dudes in the class. I'm like,
Hmm.
you're just not going to be as fast as them. And something
Yeah.
our head coach told me one time was like, just let them tire themselves out, because that's what he does with them.
Hmm.
Like, in his, I think, like mid-80s, and I've seen him do it with me. He lets everybody run out of ideas, and then he just then he just does whatever.
Yeah. Oh man, that's cool.
Yeah. It is cool too, like seeing. I think that's one of the things about being a woman in jiu-jitsu is you see a lot of like these older like male black belts that are like in their 40s,
Hmm.
50s, 60s, like chilling at open mat, and there's usually like one woman like in the same demographic, and I would just love to see more women like moving through, and so that's
Me
just
too.
the norm.
I remember in the Belladonna we had an open mat in Rio Rancho, which is like outside of Albuquerque,
Mm-hmm.
and it was my second time, and it's crazy even saying it. My second time seeing a female black belt. Like, oh my God. And it was just so cool getting to roll with her because it's different. Like, her technique is like there. She doesn't have to bulldoze, and it's just like, wow, it's crazy. So yeah, I agree with you. I would love to see more women on the mat. I would love to see more higher level women on the mat because it's inspirational for you, right? For
Yeah,
me, and it's like, wow, like it can be done. It can be done. It's gonna take time. It's something that's getting there. We're getting there
yeah.
as women.
I think we're definitely getting there, and hopefully, it's a matter of getting more women to start, and then getting more women to just stay.
Hmm.
Even with everything that comes through in life, families, careers, all of that. Like, if the men can make it work, we can make it work too. We just have to get
Exactly.
together.
Yeah. No, I agree. 100%.
Yeah. And so, Maria, my final question for you before we wrap this up is, what advice would you give to someone going in to their very first class?
You're brave for going for your first class. Don't stress out. Don't worry about don't worry about being in bottom. Don't worry about like, failing at a submission or a position. It's your first day. Take it day by day. You're human. You're gonna learn and keep coming. Eventually, it gets better.
Yeah,
Through struggle, you'll find salvation. That's what I would say.
I like that. Through struggle, you'll find salvation.
Yes.
Great. Maria, if someone listening wants to find your gym, your class, connect with you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Social media, my Instagram. I always forget my Instagram name. It's Maria underscore in underscore a gi. I don't wear a gi that much, so. Or you can also just look at Black Sheep BJJ. That's where you would find our gym. You can also come to El Paso. Look
Mm-hmm.
at Google Black Sheep BJJ. We'll
Mm-hmm.
come right up and come in. I mean, we're open to all and everyone.
Great. And I'll drop those handles in the show notes as well. And then if you could send me the one for Belladonna, I'll put that in the show
Oh
notes.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
of course. And if you're a woman or female around the El Paso area, you're more than welcome to come. You don't have to be professional. You don't have to be. You can be a novice. Everyone's welcome.
Yeah.
Gi
Awesome.
or no gi, doesn't matter.
Love that. Well, Maria, thank you so much for talking to
Thank
me
you so much.
Saturday.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, it's been great hearing about you and your story and Black Sheep BJJ. So thank you.
No, thank you.